So, how can you be sure that you will continue writing and get your book done without being overly concerned about what other people might think or what kind of reaction you're going to get to it? Because, of course, as we know, that slows us down, right? Hi, everybody. I'm Ricky Heller. I'm a book coach and developmental editor, and I help you discover your ideas for your book, organize them, and write the very best book that you can. And you might even find that along the way, you figure out a little bit more about what's important to you and who you really are. So, I want to talk about how we can persist even when we're feeling pressure from other people or critics, right? And I'll tell you a little story. When I was in university doing my master's of English, one of my colleagues, one of my co-students, had published his first short story. And it generally got really good reviews, but there was one critic who really didn't like it. And we were at one of these faculty parties, with the professors and where the students and the professors mingled. And one of our favorite professors was talking to this guy, and he was telling the professor how horrible he felt because somebody had said that his work was really not that good. And the professor went over to him and he started tapping him on the forehead and he said, "You must develop the carapace." And I remember I went home and looked up the word carapace because I had no idea what it meant. And what it means is the hard shell of some animals have, like a turtle's shell, right? He's saying, develop that tough skin. But how do we actually do that? Because oftentimes people that mean something to us are critical. And I think this particular problem has come into play more than ever before in human history with the advent of social media, because you have trolls or people who just have nothing better to do who are on the internet who are constantly criticizing other people. And I have to admit, I'm one of those people who used to try to respond and be reasonable and explain my position. But the fact is, there are always going to be people like that. So, how do you handle that? And there are different ways to think about it. So I'm going to present you with some of the ways you can think about it. And when you think this way, it really does change your perspective. The first person who spoke publicly about this was, or the first person I encountered who spoke publicly about this was Brene Brown, where she talks about the man in the arena. And that's actually a quote from, I forget which president, famous president. And it's the idea that unless the person criticizing you is down there in the arena with you, in other words, they're in the trenches like you are doing the same thing you're doing, they have no right to criticize you. If somebody is sitting on the sidelines and just watching and doing nothing, but they're criticizing you and you're taking action and you've written a book and they haven't, why on earth would you care what they think? They're not capable of doing what you want to do. Another way of saying this, and many of my coaches have said it this way, is why would you take advice from someone who has not accomplished what you want to accomplish? Or why would you take advice from someone who is not where you want to be, right? If someone has published 10 successful novels and they tell me, I think this draft is a little weak, you need to change it, I would trust that person's opinion much more than my cousin Josie living in New Mexico. I'm just making this up. I don't have a cousin Josie in New Mexico, but whoever it might be who is a waitress at a barista at Starbucks, and who has never written something, although she's talked about writing a book for 10 years, but has never written anything or put anything out in public. And for her to tell me, that's crap, you aren't a good writer, why would I care what she thinks? She isn't someone who has already accomplished what I want to accomplish. So how do I know that her words are from a place of experience? And the other thing I'll say is, those people who have published 10 books, 10 successful books, who are established as writers, they're not the people who are going to criticize you that way. They're not the people who are going to try to tear you down and tell you that your work is awful, because those people are too busy writing their books. If anything, they're going to try to pull you up and encourage you because they know how hard it is and they have no desire to see you fail, right? So you really have to think about it. One of my former coaches used to talk about, what if you were you were walking down the street and somebody who you absolutely don't care about in any way, a total stranger on the street who's just sitting there playing with their dog, and they look up and they say to you, "You're a terrible parent." Would you believe them? Now, maybe if deep in your heart you thought you were a terrible parent, it would trigger something in you, but it's certainly their word has no credence with you. It's like when I bake brownies, I'm a lifelong baker. When I bake brownies, if one batch doesn't come out, I know I'm a good baker anyway. I don't let that make me feel as if I'm a terrible baker. So think about that. Think about, who is this criticism coming from? And are those people who actually mean something to you? Are those people whose opinion is important to you? And I would say 99.9% of the time, it is not. So that's one way to approach this. Just remember that those are the people who aren't doing what you're doing. You're out there, you're writing, you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your ideas out there. You're the one who deserves praise, and you're the one who deserves to have rock solid confidence. And also, building that carapace isn't going to hurt. I also want to talk about what happens when someone who really does mean a lot to us criticizes our work, but I'm going to save that for next time. So for now, thank you for listening. I do have a free guide if you're still thinking about what's your topic, what are you going to write about in this book, and how do you decide what you're going to write about. It's called My 3 Tips to Find Your Topic Today. You can go to rickyheller.com/guide, and the link is in the show notes as well, to get that free guide, or simply go to my website, rickyheller.com/subscribe, and subscribe to my weekly newsletter where I talk about tips like this every week. I talk about the experience of being a writer, stories from my life around this topic, and the occasional cute dog photo and story as well. So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know if it has, and please do subscribe. I will see you again next time. Take care, everybody.